There are some amazing artists around these days, very good artists with extraordinary skills. They are bound everywhere because the schools that are where the people study art has become more sophisticated. The students have become more studious. It's become almost like a production factory. Most art now almost is excellent, painters, sculptures, everything looks so refined. When you look at the level of work, the volume of work in places like Artsy, on the net and Sotheby's, and it's quite astronomical. There's a lot of great art around, and it's a good thing. The upside for this is that it makes even more people aware of art. This awareness is not something to jump up and down about, but it's something to be encouraged. More and more people are getting more and more interested in the art and the practice of art. Where we have a problem is that too many people seem to pursue this particular profession, and that creates a bottleneck for too many graduates, as I would like to say so. I would like to think so. The problem here is that there's just not enough space for everybody. It doesn't just exist. Like everything in life, there's just not enough. Or if there's enough, more and more people are not willing to share that bounty, that abundance. People are not willing to share. One of the things that I have taken note of late, if you're a young artist, pay attention to this, is that there are also very many well-supported young artists who are doing well. I use the word doing well inverted in the sense that many of them, they have studios that sometimes cost more than where you can afford to live in. Fantastic studio spaces. They have the money for the paint, for the canvas, for the heating, the lighting, and maintenance of their studios. Some of their studios are way bigger than even office blocks. And again, it's nothing to be envious about or bitter about. These things do happen. And more and more of these artists who have these spaces are actually, some of them do make it into the sale room, and their works do sell. Some of them are doing quite well. Be they Chinese, Americans, British, Africans, Spanish, Europeans, they are there. And as you look through the internet, which I do all the time because it's part of what I do, I'm quite impressed, amazed, sometimes shocked at the age of some of these young stars. That is, young artists who are actually showing great promise. And you cannot but admire their willingness to work hard for what they believe in, and also their sense of purpose. And I like it, actually. As a young artist, it might trigger a sense of envy, because when you look at how relaxed and how everything seems to be flowing for these young artists, you do wonder, what have I done wrong? Why am I not getting the same opportunities? And it's not simply because of skill. There are other factors as to why a young artist may be doing quite well and you're not. Some of them inherit money. trust funds. Of course, there are some people who actually make the money themselves, but most artists who are below the age of 30 cannot be doing very well because there's just not enough money to go from the people who are in their 60s to them. So a very small percentage actually make a good living out of their art. If they are practicing every day and that's their main job, that means they are not relying on the art to pay their bills, or somebody else is paying the bills, which again is not a bad thing, It depends on your luck in life, But if you are not lucky, opportune to be in that shoe, there are many things you can do. And one of them is that you must learn to market yourself. It's so important for your survival. You do not have a choice. You must learn to market yourself because it is brutal out there. It's very brutal. You can get a show, say you made a show and it's not well optimized. You can have a show that costs you $5,000 to set up and you won't sell a single picture, meaning that you're already down a loss of $5,000. But there are ways you can mitigate against that, and this is the subject of this video. This video is to give you a sense of achievement that you can get if you plan your exhibition, your art operations, your art life, your art business properly. It requires, obviously, the skill of the artist to produce the work. Then you need the skill of the accountant to make sure that you're not overspending whatever money you have. And then you need the skill of the manager to manage your time, make sure that works keep getting produced while you seek ways to make your money. And secondly, and the most important of all this, is to learn and fine-tune your sense of marketing. You really have to take this particular aspect of your career very seriously, because until you do, most people are not going to help you. If you don't have a way to convince somebody that what you're doing is worth something, is worth paying for, you're not going to get a single dollar for your work. Doesn't matter how good you are. And it's not a matter of blaming somebody else or feeling pitiful for yourself or feeling sad. To be honest, and to put it simply, nobody gives a damn. If you don't succeed, that's your wahala, that's your problem. Many people are not successful, and just how life is. So, again, this is what you must do. You must learn to organize your time properly. You need to build your art career as if you're building a business. You need to have a timetable of how you work. Discipline is very, very important. You need to have like a Monday to Friday work ethic where you must put in a focused, concentrated effort to work for 8 hours a day on the art. You must do that. You don't have to, but if you want to take your art to a level where you're beginning to support yourself, you must do it like a job. So maybe, put simply, from Monday to Wednesday to the middle of the week, or Monday to Friday to the middle of the week, you have to wake up. You have to wake up on time, and you have to paint, draw, do all your artwork within the working hours of the average person. So if people go to work at 9 a.m. to do their normal work, cleaning, selling, whatever, in shops and all that, you as an artist must be in your studio at the same time and start painting. By 5 p.m. or 6 p.m., you should get out of that office or your studio and maybe go and sort out the rest of your life, which is shopping, washing, looking after your kids, getting to see your girlfriend, your wife, whatever you have to do. You have to normalize your struggle. Your problem as an artist is not unique. You're not the only person who's going through it. But you have to build a system that works for you. Hence, you need to operate with precision. I would say work for about 4 days a week, 8-hour shifts, and then in that shift you must spend at least 2 hours of it every day on the business side of your art. In other words, you need to study the marketing which you're doing. So if you're a figurative artist, study the figurative market. If you're an abstract artist, study abstract market. Do it as an educational process, because you will need it when you want to place and market your art. Make sure that you really do understand the type of art you're making. That is, you don't have a doubt as to why you're making that kind of art. It must be crystal clear in your mind. It cannot be a guesswork. You cannot be asked by someone, what do you do? And you start mumbling, or you start thinking, I don't know, I just know. You can't do that. People won't help you, you know. This is a very tough world. Very, very, very brutal. So you need to be able to work 4 days a week. On the last day, which is the 5th day, you should dedicate that to marketing. In other words, you need to go out there, go to the galleries, meet people with the objective of finding at least every week, you need to find at least 3 people who you want to connect your art with. You need to go out there, you need to use the internet, you need to use WhatsApp or whatever material you need to find people with. You need to contact people, go to offices, go to the bank, learn about money, learn about loans, learn about everything that a normal businessman will learn. You need to learn it. If you want to understand loans, just go to the bank and ask the bank, what do I need to do to get a loan? If you want to do marketing, find a marketing company, if you must, and ask them, I want to get into marketing, what do I have to do? Real life experience. You don't have to work for them, but if you ask them the right way, you will get the information you need. And that information is what you're going to use to apply so that you can move your art career forward. All this information are available, and you can get most of them free. You do need to also study, but that can come later. That you can do that much later. But practically speaking, you can go and ask people advice. You know, they will tell you as much as they can before they start asking you, you need to pay for it. What they're going to tell you will be enough for you to jumpstart or kickstart your skills to become a real professional artist that actually makes money for a living. Not just paint for the sake of painting. You actually do great work and you get paid for it, and you sell and you live a good life. But that requires you really understanding how the market works. You know, and the market is a money market. It is not an emotional market, it's a sentimental market. It's not like, I don't know, it's not a relationship of people liking or not liking you. It's a matter of, if they like a work, are they willing to pay for it? Are they willing to support you with that and all that stuff? That's really what you want as a professional, you know. So think of being an artist who can actually look after himself or herself, and who is also willing to support other artists, build a community, and work together to achieve a common goal, which is financial independence. You know, you must think along those lines. Many young artists make the mistake of thinking that painting is a sort of noble job that you do and people come and discover you and pay for you to have some kind of utopian life. I mean, anyone who is an artist should disabuse themselves of that stupidity, because you won't get far if you try that sort of operation. Now, going back to what I was saying earlier, you have to see yourself as almost a self-employed businessman, but your goods or your product is your art. And because your art is unique to you and you're the one who is making it, you can reduce your cost of production while increasing your market value by trying to make works that can actually sell. You know, I don't mean you should just copy what is selling and try to sell it. No, you still need to be original. You still need to be experimental. But whatever you do, you must make it portable, possible, and probable for people. If you see what I'm saying, you know, you need to, like for example, just off the cuff, a lot of people like landscape paintings because they are kind of neutral. Many people will hang it in their offices if it meets their taste. So if you're a landscape artist, for example, it would be great and it'd be good for you to paint works that fit into the average sitting room or average reading room. And the sizes matters. You need to be able to create sizes that are within the 1 meter by 1.5 meter parameters. You need to be able to do that because the average room size, the wall size is not that big. And because the walls are not that big, you have to be considerate in what you're trying to get people to buy. So if you can produce works that are fitting those spaces, your chances of selling gets better. Also, you have to be strategic in the way you paint. If you look at the average house, I'm just giving you some marketing tips. I'm not saying you should paint like this, but there are certain type of colors that are complementary than others. If you look at the popular color that people use in their sitting rooms, they're usually close to, I would say, white or off-white or gray or off-gray, something like that. So if you're going to put a picture there, or if you're making a picture, and you think about what colors complement the color off-white, the color like magnolia, or like gray, or things like that, you have to think. And I don't have to tell you what colors to use, but you can work it out. I mean, if you have studied color art and all that, you'll be able to work it out. Certain colors go well with certain colors, and people instinctively go towards the color that they find suiting, the colors they find goes with their personality or with their property or with their surroundings, you know. So when you're making a painting, you can also always remember that these paintings are for people, not just for you. So when you paint, think about color chemistry, color psychology, and stuff like that. Whatever it is you're painting,
Again, I'm not defining you paint anything for anybody, but think about using colors that are complementary to the senses, to the eyesight and all that stuff. So as you look into this, you'll find that if you're a young artist, if you are able to keep your prices between $5,500 to about $2,500, you have a high chance of selling your work, especially if you build it up. In other words, a smaller size canvas will start at 500, and the largest one, which may measure at the most, I would say 2 meter, which is 2 meter by 1 meter or 2 meter by 1.5 meter. Those ones you should keep about $2,500, because people need to get a feel of you before they start paying you high prices. And high priced items need more marketing materials need to go behind them for them to sell. But the other ones, people could buy them on instinct. A lot of people have the kind of money where if a work of art is $2,500, they can just pay for it with their credit card. It's no big deal for me. $500, no problem, if they like it. But anything above that amount, and people have to think seriously about buying it, because most people who collect art, they collect art as a pair. In other words, there are usually two people involved in the selection and purchase of the artwork. I mean, one person may be paying for the art, but it's always a second party who is complementary, who actually supports the thing being bought or not being bought. So you need to be able to keep your prices where there's not that much of a jarring in terms of if the two proponents, who people who want to buy, start arguing about prices of your work, you've lost it. Your prices should be set in such a way that the person thinks they're getting a bargain. The person thinks that they're getting so much for the money they're paying. So imagine you have set up your stall properly, you've started making some money and getting yourself known, and you have a painting that's about 1.5 meter by 1 meter, well executed painting that you have built a sort of story around, because people need stories with paintings. You need to create stories for them. I know it's something that people don't want to get involved with, but you need to build stories for works, because people who buy works also like to explain it to people who see them in their houses, in their offices, and so on and so forth. So a storyline is very important in the marketing of an artwork. Say, as I was saying before, if you had a painting that was measuring 1.5 meter by 1 meter, and it was priced at something like $2,500, just for this argument, and it's well done, it's framed properly, it just looks good, and for some reason you decide to sell it because you want to push the market, you keep it at $1,750, below the 1,800 mark, and say there's another work in that same space measuring $750, but now that one is 1 meter by 1 meter. The chances are that both works will sell. Both works are going to sell, because it means that the guy can pick up the two works for less than $2,700, what they will normally pay for one of your paintings. So to do this marketing strategy, you need 3 paintings. Three great paintings actually, but with different dimensions. 2 of them same size, 1.5 by 1 meter. The second one, 1.5 meter by 1 meter. And then the third one should measure 1 meter by 1 meter. So what you do is you put one at 750, put one at 1,750, and put the other one at 2,500. What is going to happen is this: people will go to the 2,500 and look at it and wonder, why is it 2,500? And then they'll look at the one that is 1,750 and think, why is it 1,750? And then they look at the smallest one and say, why is it 750? This is how people's psychology works. They will want to know why one is priced over the other. Your explanation should not be like somebody trying to sell a mango shoes or whatever in a shop. Your explanation will be that the artworks are priced usually due to the amount of work that it involves and the experience, the research that goes behind making the work. You have to use the word research, and I hope you also do research before you work. But when you put that the artwork goes with research and all that, and they look at the 751 and they see there's a lot of work in it, and they look at the 1750 and they see a lot of work in it, and they look at the third one, the 2,500 one, and there's a lot of work in it. The only thing they have to do now is to make a choice what they want to buy. You don't have to market after that. You don't have to say much. You don't have to start trying to reduce the price or give them a bargain. You don't do any of that. Because if they want to buy it, they'll buy it. They will definitely buy it. You don't have to reduce the price by a single cent. Chances are that if the person is serious and you've made the right impressions, 2 of them will be sold. I guarantee you that 2 of them will be sold. And you can make that happen by offering the interested party to take. Remember your prices. Your prices are normally 500 to 2,500. So you're within your range. You're not losing a single penny. So you can offer to sell the work. The first one you can offer the person, if they show real interest, I would like you to take this 751 for 600, and then take the 1751 for 1,600, and then for the $2,500 one, you give it to the guy at 2,400. Automatically, the sale is made. They might not necessarily go for the $2,500 one. They might not go for that one. You don't need to bother. But the other 2, because they are getting 2, almost 2 for the price of 1, you're going to more likely sell the 600 plus 1,600. That gives you what? 2,400. So you almost hit your mark. You sold 2 works. You got 2,400. You got 2 people, 2 works of art that's going to represent you and help you sell even more work. And that's how you do it. Actually, it's better for you to sell 2 works than to sell 1, because the 2 will be selling and expanding your influence in 2 different directions, whereas only 1 work can only do in 1 direction. So the idea is to sell the 2 works and not necessarily the expensive one. That will sell later. And that's how you position yourself to try to sell your work. If you don't have the marketing department, you don't have the people who are out there trying to sell your work every day of the week. Because selling art is a very, very, very difficult type of work to do. When you see a gallerist, somebody who markets art and sells art, trust me, it's not easy for them. It may look like, oh, look at, they're making money, they're not paying you. No, it's not like that. It may cost close to, if it's not done properly, to sell a work of £1,000 can cost up to £500, or $1,500 can cost up to $750 to sell. Because again, the people who want to buy art know what art they want to buy. You cannot force them to buy what they don't want to buy, because this is high ticket items. Secondly, to be able to place the artwork in front of the people who normally buy the works of art, they need to see it maybe 10 times, maybe 15 times, maybe 20 times before they will part with their money. And the only way you can get them to see this work is either by having museum exhibitions, by having art fairs, art shows, media publicity, the social media, charity promotions. It is not easy. And it's when they've seen it enough and you've made the right impression, and hopefully you as a young artist is a personable person, you're a nice person, you treat people well, and people kind of like you, then your work will sell. It will sell regardless of what you're painting. As long as those paintings, because I'm speaking more of painters now, the more your work is professionally finished and the more personable you are, the more likelihood that the promotions that the art gallery is doing will most certainly sell the work. But then again, you have to also do a lot of marketing yourself. Don't just rely on the person representing you, because they have a limit to what they can do. But you yourself can also help to make this happen. I hope this video makes sense to you and that you continue to do more work. With that said, have a good day. Ciao.